Salama, ndiye mwamba ni salama, ndiye mwamba ni salama. When I talk about Africa, I always never forget when I was just in grade school, and I checked out a book about Albert Schweitzer, who was a missionary in Africa, and I always thought that was the greatest thing there ever was. How could somebody be a missionary in Africa? There could be nothing greater than that. All through school, I would always, if there was a movie about Africa on, I wanted to watch it. There was a National Geographic or a book about Africa, I wanted to look at it. You know, I just thought it was one of those alluring places that was unreachable and unattainable, that would always be fantastic to have the opportunity to be there, and how great that would be.
Ni njia ya kufika mbinguni, ni taa ya kwenda Sayuni. Kwenye mwangaza, tatembea kwenye mwangaza.
But after I was in the council, I was still working for a couple of years. I wasn't ready to retire, couldn't quite afford it, and I was in my office one day sitting down to do some paperwork, and at my office I had a desk, and it faced a wall, a white wall, and I sat at this desk and I just felt the Spirit overflow me. I looked up at the wall, and there was just like a big screen television on this white wall, and on that big screen television in vivid color I saw a jungle, and I see all these dark-skinned people walking out of this jungle and come and sit down on the ground so that I could preach to them. And then the vision faded away. And then my mind took over, and I said, well, that has to be like Honduras or Mexico or something like that, because they got dark skin too, and they have jungles down there, and that's where we're at. That had to be, you know, me preaching to them was just symbolic of somebody preaching to them. I really knew what that was. That was me preaching to a group of people that were enthusiastic about hearing the gospel in Africa. I knew it. I knew it for a fact. So I came home later that night, and I told my wife, I said, I just wanted to let you know that the Lord's going to send me to Africa. I didn't tell anybody else. But I knew I'd be going to Africa. And about 4 months later, it was conference time, and I was sitting in a council meeting, and invariably we'll get many letters. That was back in the day before computers and email and websites and stuff, so we were always getting these letters from people, and we had many letters that came in from Africa. People would say, you know, I want to join with your church, and I was always the guy that would always say, this is a scam, throw that letter away. I was always telling them, let's not do this. And all of a sudden, Bill Sheldon came out with a letter that they had received, and actually it was Brother Brickhouse, because he was the secretary, and he said, I got this letter from Africa, and I thought, okay, here's another one of these scam letters, and he read this letter.
Ewe muhitaji uje, anakukaribisha. Imani kweli natoa, neema ya kutosha.
In the town of Kisii, located in Kenya, lived a young mother named Margaret Mora Osaka. She had been praying and searching for a church which taught the gospel according to Christ's doctrines and not man's. Around the fall of 1998, Margaret had an experience. During the night, the Lord spoke to her and directed her to go to her father's home where she would find a specific book in his library. She was to contact the church on the inside cover of that book. She recognized the book from seeing it in her youth. Her father, Brother Osaka, had been given this book in the 1960s by a traveling missionary named Ripley. When Margaret opened the book, she found on the inside cover that it had been published by the Church of Christ Temple Lot in Independence, Missouri. She spoke to her father about the experience, and he encouraged her to do as the Lord had directed and contact this church. She composed a letter asking for information on the beliefs of the Church of Christ Temple Lot. Apostle William Sheldon received the letter and sent several church tracts of our beliefs. Brother Osaka began to read the Book of Mormon and found many wonderful and comforting words in it. Then he began to share scripture from the Book of Mormon with others in the Kisii area. This enraged the people of his village, who believed the Book of Mormon to be a devil-worshipping book. Back in America, Apostle Sheldon had given Margaret's name and address to Apostle Smith Burkhouse, Secretary for the Council of Apostles, who sent her a copy of the Book of Mormon. Meanwhile, persecutions in Kisii were getting worse for those using the book. Margaret was afraid to pick up the package containing the Book of Mormon, since the post office there opens all packages to examine their contents. Her father told her not to worry, but to get the book, and they would read it together. She did, and when they read it, they found that it taught the gospel of Christ, not devil-worshipping. Further communications were made, and the Church of Christ was invited to Kisii to teach them the gospel. Notice that the Church of Christ would accept the invitation and come to Kenya was sent. Margaret went to the villages surrounding Kisii, telling the leaders of independent groups meeting together and worshiping that they needed to hear what the Church of Christ was bringing to Kisii, and how the Lord had directed her to contact us. With some reluctance because of the Book of Mormon, they agreed to meet us.
Bill Sheldon came out with a letter that they had received, and he read this letter, inviting us to come to Kisii from Margaret Mora in Kisii. And the Spirit just came over me that this is what I was talking to you about. This is what I showed you. And so I told him, I said, let me tell you an experience I had. And I told him the experience, and I said, and this letter is that experience. This is an invitation to that experience. We have never done this as a council since I've been there, or for many, many years, since Mexico and Honduras. Honduras opened by somebody going there that wasn't even going there for taking the gospel. They just happened to be down there for a humanitarian reason. And Mexico, back in the 50s, or earlier, started. We hadn't really done much besides that. And so the council decided, well, the Lord told us we should go there, we better go. It was a new experience for us just to go ahead and send somebody off. And so they voted who we're going to send, and they nominated me and my brother Brickhouse, and we made the arrangements, and off we got on an airplane to head off to Kisii, Kenya. It's a place we knew nothing about, to people we didn't know. And so the first day, after we met the people, we got in the hotel. The next day they said, okay, we're going to take you to a service. And we got in a little car, a rental car, and they drove us to a place called Kababi. And they walked us into a house, and there was about a half a dozen people in there, and they made some speeches, and we said a couple of prayers. And they said, okay, let's go. And I go, what do you mean, let's go? What are you talking about? I didn't come halfway around the world to, listen to you guys talk and me say one prayer and then tell me to go, I mean, what do you mean? And they said, well, come on, we got to go to the service. Oh, okay. So they took us out of the house, walked down this path, and we showed up in this field, lined by this jungle. I was standing there in this field lined by this jungle, and all these dark-skinned people walked out of the jungle, sat down on the ground for me to preach to them. And it was exactly the place I saw in my vision. I knew we were in the right place. And we've been there ever since. It's been 13 years in April. So the church has grown there. We have like 35 congregations in Kenya. One of the Kenyan brothers went out, reached out to the country just south in Tanzania. We have 35 congregations in Tanzania now. And I've just recently started corresponding with a man, and on this next trip I'll be going, we're going to go to Ethiopia, and we hope that God's prepared the way for us to go there too. And the work is opening up. I just began writing to a man in South Africa. I began writing to him, and maybe the Lord will open that up also. So it's fulfillment of prophecy that this gospel will be preached in all the world, then Jesus will come.